Hello, good morning. My name is SBJ. Welcome back to Emperor's Path. Today we're going to be doing the November 2023 layout update. Before we go and head up into the loft to go and have a look at what's been going on in the layout, just a massive thank you to anybody who's supported me over the last 6 months or so. I know I haven't put any videos out, however, I have been doing things in the background, a lot of it around teaching, weathering commissions, repainting commissions and things like that. So if you've stuck around during that time, I am exceedingly grateful. If, however, you're new to the channel, you might not know this yet, but my loft gets extremely hot in the summer months. So basically from May onwards, it is sketchy as to whether I'm going to get a chance to get back up there. Now, usually I get back in the loft by October. I've had a lot of things going on in regards to teaching and weathering commissions and doing shows in the last couple of months, so I just haven't had a chance to get up there, clean the layout and get some trains running. If you haven't already, you can view my previous video, which was a running session. Basically, I managed to clean the loft so that I can actually get up there and run some trains. So you can view that up there and hopefully you enjoy that. This video is quite important because at the end of it, I'm going to be asking you a question of which section of the layout you would like me to work on next. During the time upstairs, I do cover all the different reasons, the things I'd like to do, and I'd love your opinion on those particular subjects. So without further ado, let's go and have a look at Past Sam up in the loft, and I'll see you guys at the end of the video.
Okay, so let's start on the east side of the layout. As previously stated, this is probably the part where the least amount has changed in quite a while, but we are looking at ways that we can improve this, and one of the things that I'm contemplating doing is moving the girder bridge section that's down here, or the beginning of the off layout section. I'm contemplating moving it from here and moving it up towards here. Now, the reason for that is because I'm contemplating adding in some additional fiddle yards down the line to accommodate larger trains. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to bring that particular side down a bit, or in a bit, and that will allow me to put in one additional point that will bring an additional siding somewhere around here, and it will come and just fit underneath the beam of the loft, but it will allow me to put in somewhere in the region of a 6 to 9 coach train, depending on how long a section I can get in there. It's not completely necessary. I also hate when I'm filming that this particular bit here is very much a slope. The problem is it's not meant to be a slope. It's just how my baseboards have gone over the last couple of years, and that particular bit does gripe on me a little bit. It's not. I've not made that decision completely. I'm going to see how it goes, but that is definitely one thing that I'm contemplating when it comes to changes that I'm going to be making to the layout. Regardless of whether I do bring that in, one thing that I am going to be doing in the coming months is I'm going to be adding some fencing along the line side. And I'm going to be making sure that I start putting in some of the grout mixture to make it like there's a pavement up here. So depending on how far in I come, I'm going to be adding a road that goes along there. And it's mostly going to be a service road that leads inside the yard bit down here for the network rail and the electrical people who will be coming into that particular area. And then it will give me a little bit of oomph to work on this section here by the bridge and get that all sorted. So they are my particular bits that I want to work on this area. I want to continue putting the clump foliage along the line. It's started on this side over here, and I've brought it all the way up here. Sorry, going out of focus. Yeah, and one thing that I want to do with that is I want to make it so that I bring that clump foliage off, because I think it really brings that area of the layout to life. It makes it look really overgrown, really grubby, and it's an area where having seen it in real life on the old canal section in between Fratton and Portsmouth and Southsea, there is a lot of fly tipping that goes on there, and I've seen over the years shopping trolleys, washing machines and bits like that get thrown in. That's what I want to do when it comes to working on this section of the layout. Let me know your thoughts below. There's a lot of things that we need to do. I do think I need to remove the point that is down here, just as the entrance to the tunnel. The main reason for that is I've been having a lot of problems where locos are cutting out on that point, and also for some reason it doesn't throw properly. Now, I think it's where it's a bad point that I had before and for some reason didn't throw away, which is bigger for me. So I'm going to pull that out and hopefully get a new point put in there. And hopefully that will fix a lot of the problems, because it does mean that any locos that come in out of one line and want to reverse down the other can't do it. So I only am able to run trains that way, which isn't a big problem because I'm not a big shunter. I like trains to just be running around over and over. But it is something that I do want to at least look at and address, because I do also have a problem where the shorter locos, such as the 33s, if they're coming from the inner siding, they do tend to cut out on there. The 47s and the 50s don't really have a problem on there, but the sort of the Bobo diesel chassis do. So that's something that I need to have a look at. So I'm going to include this corner up here in this particular section. It's a part that I have ignored. I've built sections of, but I haven't really done any scenic parts to it. Massive thank you to my friend Paul from Effingham Junction. He donated me that block of buildings over there, which have helped fill that section out. Obviously, I've done nothing with it, but I've put it up there just to give me a rough idea. We've got the tower block building over there, and we've got the shops and the house building over there. So there's something that I will have a look at building. I quite like that particular kit, and I think it would definitely be something that I could use in the future towards building up that section. So I do need to structurally make the actual bridge section better, but that's something that I can work on. The biggest section that's undergone the most amount of change since the last update, I feel, is the station area. Now, we had the bridge section in from the Metcalf kit. That's been there for a while now. But I now have the canopies in place for the station canopies. I do need to get those sprayed red, but they are primed now, which is good. It's a lovely kit. A lot of people have asked, oh, where did you get your station canopies in the scratch build? No, they're not. I can assure you they're not, because I am not that good at scratch building. These are the Dapol Airfix kits. Depending where you get them, you can get them for a really good deal. I will warn you, the Dapol kits can be a little bit warped sometimes. And out of, I think I bought 10 kits in total, 2 of them were completely ruined and not straight. Now, my canopies aren't going to be staying like this. I'm going to be putting some corrugated iron sort of bits where the clear plastic would usually go. But that's not going to be painted the red that I'm going to be painting this part of the canopy, so I'm leaving that off until later. What I have also done is I've magnetized the supports, and the reason for that is to take the canopies off and work on those as need be. When I decide that I want to add lighting further down the line, I can do that as well. So that's important to me. The other reason is they don't necessarily sit at the height that I need them to if they are straight put on the platforms. So what I've done is I've drilled holes for all of those bits, and eventually I'm going to make a support that puts it at the right height, glue all of the posts in, because at the moment they're not glued in. So if I were to try and lift that off now, a lot of the posts would come with it, whereas eventually I want it that the posts sit nicely with the station canopy on top. So that's something that I need to do. Alternatively, I might do what NSE Latchmere has done and make some bigger, sturdier posts for those to sit on. But at the moment, I'm happy that with the ones I've got. I just need to make sure that they sit perfectly. As you can see on this 416 here, the station canopy is actually resting on its roof. That's where it's just slid down into the base a little bit. That's not a problem. That's something that I'm going to be addressing in the coming months. So yeah. The other thing that needs addressing in this section is I do need to re-weather a lot of the track. A lot of it was put in at the beginning, and a lot of it has also come out since. So you can probably see certain areas where the track has already been weathered in its original position. But I do need to have a look at going in with the airbrush. I was meant to do it over the summer months, but I just didn't find the time. The loft became a bit of a dumping ground during the holiday season. Suitcases getting pulled out and things like that. With Christmas coming up, it does mean that I have to pull a lot of the stuff that's underneath the layout out, which then gives me a great chance to do a bit of a clear out as well, and chuck away what I didn't need to. In order for me to get back in the loft, I did chuck away 4 bin bags worth of crap that had accumulated up in the loft, where I just sort of put stuff in here for safekeeping and then forgotten about it. I'm really liking the station area now. Now that it's got the canopies in and the bridge in, it feels more like a station. There's a lot of things that I need to do, but I'm really happy with how the area as a whole looks. It is the scenic point, or the biggest scenic point of the layout, so having trains being able to run in here is great. I don't often stop my locos because usually when I'm up here I'm just running trains whilst working on bits. That's my favourite thing to do. I come up, I let trains run round, and I'll be working on scenics or fiddling with bits and bobs, and I occasionally switch points, change the trains that are going around, but otherwise I just like to have trains running around in the loft. So that is something that I need to maybe start doing down the line when I'm filming videos, but that's something that I'm not doing right now. The main thing here is looking at lots of historical photos of Fratton. The colour scheme of Fratton over the last 100 years has changed drastically. During the Network Southeast era, there are a lot of red pieces here. Those of you who know Portsmouth as a whole, it is a very, should we say, patriotic city. Portsmouth Football Club is blue as its main colour. And red didn't necessarily stick around for long, but I like the red popping in the station, so that's what I'm going to go with in the colour scheme. There are a lot of blue, creams and whites in the station over the years, but that's not something I'm necessarily going to be modelling. If you yourself have any pictures of Fratton in the 80s and 90s, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see pictures of the station canopies, the locos that are running around there. I did find a section on Flickr that had loads of bits and bobs to look at, and it was fantastic. Sadly, most of those pictures were from the 80s, where a lot of it was in blue or cream, so it doesn't necessarily match the era that I'm looking to model. But yeah, that's the station area down here. Let's go and have a look at the other end, because this is quite a long section. So classing the end of this particular section, I class it from this road bridge, so just here. So first of all, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a cable tie to get rid of this light fixture cord that's there, because it's been bothering me for the last couple of days. So I will sort that out before the next video. So this, what looks like a shed tunnel area, was where the old shuttle system used to be for the South Sea East branch line. When I redid the station area and put in all of the sort of storage sidings, I effectively took the shuttle system out, and that's something that I'm going to be looking at. Now, I'm going to say something that a lot of people may think is ridiculous considering what I've recently changed on the layout, but I'd love to hear your thoughts nonetheless. I did have a big thought. You know me, I feel like if I've got wasted space, I need to get rid of the wasted space. Both sides of the layouts were at least another foot bigger than they currently are now, and I've changed that by reducing the size of those and making it simple. Keeping it simple, making it so that I can address the scenic areas on there in a smaller space, so I enjoy it more. I've had a lot of thoughts about this, but I genuinely can't decide on it because I do love the additional platforms for it. But one thing I have been thinking about is on the layout, I feel like this section sometimes feels super overcrowded. My fault for sort of adding in the additional platforms, but I do like having those storage sidings in there. I have a lot of stock that I can't fit in the fiddle yard, and sometimes I would like to just have it sitting in the sidings. In my running video, you'd have seen that both of the EMUs that are now sat on platform 1 and 2 were sat in 3 and 4, and that was possible because I had the additional space to put them in and have the trains running alongside. It does look nice having all the EMUs stationed there, and it does remind me of the Portsmouth and Southsea and the Portsmouth Harbour train stations, where they often have a lot of EMUs and DMUs sat in there waiting to go off on their little adventures where they're going. However, I have contemplated reducing this board by about a foot and making a cut here, so we still have platform 1, 2 and 3, and effectively stopping the layout here, so having a big cut that goes all the way down. So in essence, what that would mean is I would make a cut on that corner section up there, so where this tunnel is, I would cut at the bottom of there and go inwards, and then cut all the way along, so effectively we lose platform 4, 5 and the storage sidings. Now, if you've seen the channel, you'll see that I have made so many different changes to this particular area since the beginning. It was originally meant to be a shunting yard, and it's been sidings, platforms, all that sort of thing across the time. We obviously had the South Sea East branch line in there as well. Now, the reason I'm thinking of taking this out is just simply to create a little bit more space, and means that when I'm leaning over, I'm not necessarily leaning over a far area to get to the station. I feel it will make the particular part of the layout look a lot more streamlined as well, and possibly open up this far corner down here. Now, by doing this, what I'd be doing is getting rid of the old South Sea East sort of shuttle tunnel that I put in place. These are things that I'll salvage and I'll try and put in different areas. I never throw stuff away. I try and keep it to use later down the line, because I've put in a lot of love for it. But there's some things that just don't work and some things that just don't get used, and I can assure you that this particular siding area, so this particular bit here downwards, doesn't get used. I put it in the beginning and it just hasn't been used since. So based on the fact that I do a lot of just running trains around, that would be a sensible option. However, it does mean that I lose a lot of this beautiful station area. So that being one of the biggest things that I'm looking to do, please leave a comment down below on what you think I should do. Do I leave the layout as it is, or do I have a look at improving the openness of the layout and making it so that it's a lot more streamlined and it's a smaller section, but I can address my attention on the area as and when I see fit, and it's in a smaller area so it's a little bit more confined and looks a little bit better. So let me know your thoughts on what you think I should do with this area. Do I cut out this whole, I think it's about a foot out of the front section, have it so I just have platforms 1, 2 and 3, or do I leave it there, keep it so it's a big scenic area that doesn't necessarily get used for its proper purpose, but it looks good? One gives me a much more scenic area, lots of locos being able to be stored here, but it also means that if I do the other option, it's much more streamlined, a lot more open, and it means that I can address a smaller area and scenic that up rather than trying to do a giant area. Moving down to this particular section, this will eventually get some ground cover, depending on whether this section goes or not. It will, once again, it will make that particular corner quite open, and it means that you can get some nice shots of the locos going around that big corner. I will address this particular area. Now, this is somewhere where I imagine there would be a lot of the flats or houses that are running alongside in Fratton. The chances are it will probably be some warehouses, a lot of low relief buildings put in this particular section. Going up to the bridge, I imagine that could be a road for the cars to go up onto. It doesn't look anything like it, but this area is meant to resemble the St Mary's Road Bridge, which is down by the old Portsmouth prison, which is now housing. As I say, I'm using the Metcalfe kit, so it doesn't look anything like it, but it is geographically meant to resemble that particular part of the island. Now, a lot of this particular section in general comes down to whether we decide to get rid of that first foot there, because it would definitely open up the corners, make them a lot more visible, and it means that there's a lot less to scenic, but also it does mean we lose a lot of interest on things that could be stabled there along the way. So that's certainly something that the reason I haven't done anything with is because I am genuinely torn with it. So moving on, let's have a look at the last part of the layout. So this part of the layout, which is going to be the most green section of the layout, has had a lot of work done to it, and I'm really happy with how it's come out. So since the beginning of the year, this section had nothing on it. It was just the lines coming on, and now it's got a lot of greenery on it, and I'm really happy. A lot of the trees haven't been glued down yet. I'm not sure on their final positions. My main plan is to work on this particular area and make it really lush and green. This, whilst not geographically close to the St Mary's Bridge in question, this resembles more of the going off the island, so that would be the old fort at Porter's Creek Junction, and on the other side would be the bridge off the island. I've got a lot of trees and shrubs and stuff to put up in this area, and it does make the area look a lot nicer. I've used some of the clump foliage here to create the bushes of the overgrown area. If you've ever had the joy of walking down at Hillsey Lines, where this is based, you'll know that you pretty much can't get close to the railway on this side of the bridge now, but in the 80s it was possible to get down there, so I'm sort of going halfway between and making it overcrowded, but it is still possible. You can't walk over the top of the bridge anymore. They've put fencing up so that you can't get in there. It would be a fantastic place to get some of the trains coming on the island. And that's something that I'd love to have a look up there a lot more when I'm not up there on a family walk and I'm by myself. I can have a real gander around to see what's possible. So what I have done since the last video on this one is I've put all of the clump foliage down, I've put some flock down, I've put some flower bushes and shrubs and things like that down. Now, everyone has their own opinion on how you do the scatter scenic area of the layout. In the Warhammer days, it was a case of that I always used to do it where you put your flock down and then you put your shrubs and bushes down before you put your static grass, because then you know where the static grass is going to grow, but you have your points of interest on there, so hence why there's loads of random bushes that are all down there. Eventually I will static grass this area. I'm in the process of making my own static grass applicator with a fly swatter and a very fine sieve. We'll see how that pans out. Chances are I will electrocute myself many times. This area is one of my favourite bits at the moment to film locos or watch locos coming in and off the island. I find that depending on what my camera wants to do, sometimes it comes up very orange and sometimes it comes up very blue-white. I prefer the blue-white because it really makes the Network Southeast and the Southwest Trains colours pop in that area. So yeah, this is definitely somewhere that I've enjoyed working on, and I'll be working on this slowly but surely over time. I do want to make that particular back edge absolutely covered in trees. I want it to be so that you almost can't see the back scene there, resembling that of Fox's Forest, which is the forest which is right towards the edge of the island. This particular section here, I think this part's going to be a lot more rocky. This is going to be where the main road meets it, and I'm going to try and make it where you can go off on a nice little walk and head towards Fox's Forest and go down here. So I'll probably try and put a footpath somewhere along there that joins all the way up to the other bridge, allows those nice dog walkers or people rambling, just a chance to walk along next to the railway, see what we can do. I'm in two minds about what to do with this section here along by the railway. I do think that a fence would probably be in there, but I feel like that would ruin the scenic ability of this, and keeping it nice and open would be a much better option. And once again, I could possibly put a fence on the other side, but we'll have a think about that and the best way to do it. So this section is the part that's changed the most. However, it's the one that I'm really happy with, and I don't think I'm going to necessarily change anything about it other than just adding more trees, more foliage and stuff like that. I will try, now that we're in that part of the year where walking's absolutely fantastic, it's not too hot to do, I'm going to try and get down to Fox's Forest, Hillsey Lines, see if I can get some photos of the area so that I can have some comparisons on what it looks like. So I did promise that was the last scenic section of the layout, and that is true. I am going to quickly address what I want to do in terms of adding additional lines into the Fiddle yard. I put the additional 8 lines in last year, and I am extremely happy with how it's panned out, and I'm just looking at ways that I can increase that. So the main way I'm going to be doing that is I have a little bit of room underneath this for where I can put some more additional lines. I think I could get away with 1 on each side. So what I'm going to do, rather than overcomplicating it and making it trying to get as much in as I can, I'm going to put 2 really long lines in at the front and the back along here, and that will give me the option to put in some really long trains, which I don't get to do because of the size of my Fiddle yard. I am restricted to 2 6-car or 6-coach trains. Now the main reason I say that is because it's usually a diesel and 5 coaches, or a 4-car EMU, or a loco and 4 coaches depending on the siding size. But that's something that I'm looking to do, and because of how this is laid out here, there's enough space where I could put a point just behind this bridge to come around the front, which is what I was talking about the other side, where I was contemplating moving it up so that I can add an additional point in to bring 1 line down the front here and put it in as a separate siding. And likewise, there's plenty of room at the back down here where I can add an additional point in, and that will give me a chance to put 1 more line that goes all the way down the back as well. Over the course of the summer months, I don't get a lot of time up in the loft because the heat up here is ridiculous and I am unable to stay up here for too long. But one thing I have been busy doing is doing weathering on personal stock and commission stock. And you can see a few bits here in the Fiddle yard. Firstly, I've got 2 Class 33s which have been weathered. The Dutch one is a repaint from a BR Green one that I got off my friend Double O Gauge Modeler, so thank you very much, Chris. And behind that is a rake of sea line wagons. I'm just trying to see if I can see. I believe they're sea line wagons, judging by my poor eyesight. And I've managed to weather all of those along there. I'm really happy with how those came out. At first I was worried that I was overdoing it, but then when I looked at reference photos, you get them in many stages of extremely clean or disgustingly filthy where you can't even see the Dutch paint on them. So I've done them all very differently. Some of them are rusty with bits of grime streaking down them, and that middle one especially there is exceedingly caked in dirt, grime, oil and stuff like that. I was talking to my friend Sanford East, and we were talking about whether you put the ballast inside them to make them look laden with goods, or you leave them empty. At the moment I'm leaving them empty, but that's something that I am contemplating adding in there as well further down the line. That rake of Network Southeast coaches, they are Mark II Backmans. They are old ones now, I believe. They definitely come in the older style boxes, but they do have the enemy kinematic couplers, so they're very good. The one thing is, the only Network Southeast loco of mine that the colour even comes close is this particular blue Class 33, hence why he's sat there at the moment. But I am seriously tempting popping the windows out and just rehashing the blue on there. I'm not going to do a full repaint on them, but I am going to pop the windows out, mask them up, and just make that blue a little bit lighter because it's very dark. I don't know if the camera shows it that well on here, because on my phone it's looking very, very light blue, but actually in the flesh they're very dark, and it's not the kind of Network Southeast colour I enjoy. So I might make those pop, but that's not something I'm addressing right now. I also do need to weather these guys. They don't need to get the full weathering treatment of making them look disgusting and grimy. It was always the Network Southeast locos that looked ridiculous, whereas the Network Southeast coaches looked relatively clean. So a little bit of grime in the hinges and stuff like that is probably what's going to come up next. Behind that is Old Faithful, my Royal Mail Mark 1 coach, which is in memory of my granddad, because he bought me my first ever train set, which came with this particular Royal Mail coach set. And I have a few people saying, oh, you need to upgrade them, they look really old. I could do, but this is a memory coach for me. It runs beautifully, considering how old the coaches are. The plastic wheels on them, they run exceedingly well. I did upgrade the Intercity loco that was pulling them. I have got the other one still in a box, but I did upgrade it to a Bachmann one to run with my layout, and that also pulls them beautifully. And it is a beautiful loco to run around the layout, and it's a fun one to see, and it gets a lot of people commenting, both good and bad, on it. Behind that at the moment, there is a 4-coach rake of BR Crimson and Cream and a BR Green being pulled by a BR Blue Class 33. That's meant to be my sort of heritage rake up there. It's not the final set that's being put in there. I might be putting that somewhere else on the layout, maybe have that sat in a siding waiting to go somewhere. I do have coaches still in my boxes that need weathering, so that's something that I need to look at. But this rake hasn't been weathered either. However, because it's a heritage rake, it would be immaculately clean, so I'm going to try and keep it relatively in good nick. Behind that, I do have my oil wagon rake, which is the old Hornby TTA wagons, which once again, they're old stock, but they run beautifully on the layout. I don't have any problems with them. So it goes to show you can make older stock work just as good on your layout as some of the newer stuff. That is a custom painted rake. It is a homage to my Warhammer days, and it is painted up in Imperial Fists colours, and that's being pulled by my Rail Freight Class 47. As I say, I do still have a lot of stock still in the boxes. I try my hardest to keep stuff in the boxes so that it forces me to have to weather them before they can go on the layout. But in some instances, like the Network Southeast coaches, I just have to have them on the layout because they are lovely to have running around. So yeah, so there you can see a little look at the fiddle yard. It's not completely full, but it will be getting filled up over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll get some stock weathered in there as well.
So there we have it, the end of the layout update. So my big question is, do you think I should work on the canal side of the layout, the station side of the layout, or the scenic, nice green pastures side of the layout? They're all very different in what they're asking me to do. I obviously also asked some other questions about what I should do with the layout, particularly on the station and the canal area of the layout. So if you have any ideas of what you think I should do with those areas, please leave them in the comments down below. Thank you once again for sticking around and watching the video. If you have enjoyed it, please click the like button, and if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button as well. And also, whilst you're at it, click the little bell icon, because if you can watch all my videos, that would be great. So without further ado, I've been SBJ. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye!